Hey guys, welcome into today's video. This is going to be a brand new series on my channel. It's going to be a foundation a day for 42 days. The reason that I wanted to start this video is that I have 51 foundations in my permanent collection. It's the number 2 item, maybe number 1 right now, of makeup that I really like testing. I'm really into testing new foundations. It switches back and forth usually between blush, eyeshadow, and foundation, my 3 favorite makeup categories, probably a lot of people's favorite makeup categories. But 51 foundations is just too much for me to have in my collection. I recently did a makeup declutter, and I will link that up in the cards, where I went through my whole collection and I decluttered, breaking some of my makeup into 3 different categories: keep, declutter, and then I made up a third, which was items that I want to keep for reference but I'm going to take out of my permanent collection and move into the closet, where I keep makeup that I think is popular, relevant, things that I may want to reference in future videos but that I don't want to use in my personal everyday life. But I did not do that with foundation. And recently I've gone through a really big skin change. In the last 8 months to a year, I have gone from really dry skin to very oily skin, and a lot of foundations that used to work for me that were more on the dewy natural finish side just aren't working these days. So I'm grabbing and loving more matte foundation. So some of my foundations in my collection predate my skin change. So the reason for this series, I don't want to just declutter foundations based on memory. I want to retest a lot of them because some of them are pretty expensive. Some of them I may re-love, some of them I may not like or may not work for me now, and it's time to make that determination. So while I have 51 foundations in my collection, this is foundation a day for 42 days because there are 9 foundations I have already made a decision on. Some of them I'm actually testing. They haven't gone into speed reviews, but I've worn them very recently, so I know exactly how I feel about them. But I will have to move them into wherever they're gonna go, keep, declutter, or in the reference pile. And then there are some that I'm testing that I already absolutely love, haven't gone into a speed reviews, and I know that I'm going to be keeping them. And then 2 of them I have already made the decision that I'm going to declutter. Welcome into day 22. Yes, I have finally made it past the halfway mark in retesting all of my foundations. On today's agenda, you guys, is the Iconic London Super Smoother Blurring Skin Tint. I kept this. I remember I kept this because it didn't work for me, but because I was loving so much of Iconic London's new releases in 2023, I wanted to hold on to it because I thought I was going to end up doing a full face. There have been so many releases of theirs that have come out that I have personally loved and have become some of my favorites. So the fact that this didn't work for me when I tested it this year was kind of a bummer. I don't know how it's going to perform now, so that's why I want to do this wear test. I want to bank on the fact that this probably won't stay, knowing that it delivers really light coverage. But you guys, let's hop right into talking about it. So it's called the Iconic London Super Smoother Blurring Skin Tint. It comes in 18 shades. I have mine in the shade Neutral Light. This retails for $32. It is supposed to be a lightweight, super hydrating skin tint that gives a blurred satin matte second skin effect for up to 12 hours. It's supposed to provide light coverage. It doesn't claim to be buildable in any way. It has 1.01 fluid ounces. It is made in Italy, and it does have a 12-month shelf life, so pretty standard. I don't remember it blurring or having a satin matte finish. I actually was surprised when I was looking this back up to do today's wear test that it said satin matte, because I was like, whoa. You know, that's just not kind of what I expect from a skin tint, although I do have some skin tints in my collection that do kind of come out satin matte or even more mattifying. There's even one that we're going to end up doing a wear test that is from a brand that I also love. I'll just tell you, it's Cali Ray. I feel like their skin tint is also kind of a satin matte. So let's get into this. You guys, in my very last video, I ended up like ditching doing one side with a sponge, and I've just been applying everything with a brush. I feel like that's been giving me a smoother application, so that is how I'm going to apply it today. But I am still going to do one side at a time. I'm going to start with this much. It definitely is a runnier consistency. This I hate, you know, this 18 shades, super expandable. When it comes in that many shades, or that few shades, I should say, they're hoping that it's a really expandable range, and so that it covers a whole bunch of skin tones, which means it usually just doesn't like have a whole ton of coverage. But then when it does, it's like, well, now you know it's limiting. Wow, that did not go far. I tell you what, that is pretty darn light coverage. I also agree that it kind of looks satin matte. That basically looked like it just kind of evened out my skin tone, didn't it? And that's pretty much all it did. Should we try some more? Let's see if we can build this up and, you know, hope it doesn't look like cakey, because sometimes it looks like nothing, and then if you let it sit for a little while, it starts to look like a more full coverage foundation. That always happens to me. I kind of feel like, oh, that's not enough. I go back in for more and then I'm like, wait a minute. It literally is like, oh yeah, you know, I had 3 beers, I'm fine. And then, you know, you stand up and and then you realize you're totally wasted. I feel like that's how sometimes it looks when I put foundation on. I want to know in the comments if you guys have ever experienced that. You think that it's not enough coverage and then you start applying more and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, when it finally dried down, it actually ended up being a way more full coverage foundation, or just more coverage, maybe not full coverage, than you initially saw as you were first applying it. I would love to know that because that's how I wind up with like too much foundation sometimes. That ended up being what I would equate to a full pump on the left side of my face. I actually think it is very blurring and smoothing. It's not the right shade either. It's too deep for me. I never know if I'm supposed to get light or fair in something. If it has like 50 shades, I'm usually light. If it has 18, I better get the fair shade. That's just what I'm kind of finding. I think it is like really blurring, and I definitely think it's a satin matte. I don't think it's like overly dewy. I think it's gonna fade off in 5 minutes, not 12 hours, but we're doing the wear test. We will know the true answer to that. I don't think it's gonna cover up my little friend here, but we're gonna start with this much and we're probably gonna end up having to build it. I actually don't think we need to build it. I think I actually pulled more onto this hand than I did with the first little squeeze on the left side. I shouldn't say this hand, but like what I put on the second time for the right side of my face, I actually think it looks pretty even. Yeah, pretty true satin matte. Let's touch it. It's not sticky, you know? Like it doesn't feel like anything. It feels like a powdery finish, or more powdery than I would anticipate for a skin tint. This is not at all what I remember it being. And I believe that it got good reviews, and I've even heard like Johnny Ross talk about it being a really blurring, like smoothing product. I just remember it not working for me personally when I had dry skin. So, but honestly, it could be something that works better for somebody who has combo oily skin, even though that kind of seems counterintuitive. Anyway, I think it's pretty. Like, man, does that look natural, skin-like, blurring, smoothing. I look like 2 years younger. I really do like the finish of this. I really do like the way that this looks initially. I will love when I end up taking you guys in natural light. So if you guys have never seen these videos, I do finish up the rest of my makeup. We come back, we do one final check-in, and then I go and do a natural light check-in for you guys right away. I do it again at 4 hours, and then at the 8-hour mark, we come back, we sit down, we look at that footage, and then we talk about how it's holding up at the 8-hour mark, and we decide whether or not she stays or she gets decluttered, because we are trying to cut my foundations from 42 to at least 21 by the time I am redone testing all of my foundations with my newfound hormonal oily skin. And I will see you guys back here in just a moment. Okay, you guys, we are back. The skin tint looks beautiful. I ended up going in with like a full coverage concealer under the under eyes. I do not think that I am going to love it. Everywhere else on my face, it looks absolutely fantastic. It's definitely better than I thought it was gonna be, or performed better in terms of like smoothing and blurring than I thought it was. But let's do a natural light check-in, then we'll see you guys back here at the 8-hour mark to see whether or not, I don't know, it's totally faded off for me, or it's just not meshing well with my oils and it's time to go, or it plays really nicely with everything and it gets to stay. The noises that come out of my house and into my videos must be so wild, because it is constantly just a freaking zoo around here. So I will see you guys back here at the end of the day. Welcome back, you guys. It's been exactly 8 hours. I am so surprised this performed the way that it did. Right now, I am so much less dewy than I normally am. I thought that this was a really, really good wear test. Super shocking. Like, I'm shocked. I'm shook. I'm shocked. I'm shook. I'm all those things. I thought immediately this was gonna slip off my face. I didn't think it was gonna last like it did. The only part that came off was my nose, which is always what happens, right? That's like the oiliest part of my face. And by the way, I never touched up this lipstick either. This is me 8 hours. Everything's hanging on pretty well. I didn't go outside, so everything that I've done has just been indoors. I still get dewy, like my natural oils, the oils still peek through even if I'm not like sweating a ton. This is super different than I remember it being. Let me show you guys what it looked like in natural light right away. It was actually really nice, nothing different, just so that you guys can get a close up. Then the 4-hour mark, I lost complete light. It started to rain, it got overcast and dark, and there was no natural light to be had. Not really, so I was doing it in the bathroom again. Not the greatest lighting in there, especially on my phone that I just don't think has like really good low light camera on the front. So anyway, it's not the clearest, but I think I am mouthing something like it's held up and, you know, oh no, my little friend on my chin. I wasn't as dewy at that point at the 4-hour mark as I am now, like my nose. Anyway, I am shocked this performed as well as it did. Let me talk about whether I think it's smoothing or not. No. So I don't think it's like overly smoothing on my face, but I don't think it adds texture. And I liked that it was a satin matte and it lasted longer than I thought it was going to. And every product that I put on top of it also lasted a decent amount of time. And my oils are peeking through in a pretty nice way. And I thought this was a really buildable formula. So, oof. I am making like opposite calls here. Every single time, if I was a betting lady, I'd be way off at this point in all of these wear tests. Let me go back to my notes. I know we're keeping this one. We just have to. As far as like satin matte foundations go, or even can be more sheer coverages go, for me, keeping a couple of those in my collection, this one should stay. So anyway, Iconic London, we are keeping. That brings my total to, ooh, yikes. I have decluttered 12 and I have kept 10. I'm still more than half decluttered than kept, so I still feel good about it. I hope you guys are enjoying these wear tests. This one was a shocker for me. Anyway, I hope you guys consider subscribing so you can stick around for days. What is this? 23 through 42 a foundation a day. I'm out of here, you guys, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye.